In this video, we'll show you how to replace the knuckle assembly on your Honda Pilot. This is located in the front of the vehicle and behind the wheel. Let's get started. With the vehicle raised and supported, we can remove our lug nuts with a 22mm. We'll set those off to the side. It's good to use a magnet tray so you don't kick them all over the place. We need to remove our brake caliper. Before we can do that, you can decompress the caliper just a little bit by prying on the edge of the rotor on the inside through an opening. And we'll just decompress the caliper a little bit. That'll just give us enough play to pull it off the rotor. We have two 19mm bolts on the back side of the knuckle. We can go ahead and remove those. I'm going to thread that one back in just a little bit while I remove the other one. So that we don't cause damage to the hose, I'm going to hang up the caliper. There are specific caliper hangers that you can use for this. I'll just be using this cord. I'll just hang that out of the way. We have a number 3 Phillips head screw right in the middle holding the rotor to the hub. We'll go ahead and remove that. And you can remove your rotor. Remove the axle nut with a 36mm socket. We have a pinch type cotter pin holding in the nut for the ball joint. I'm just going to pry out on the inward side of that. And we can remove it. We'll remove the nut for the ball joint with a 19mm. Now we can strike the knuckle right here by the ball joint to release this. Now we can use a pry bar on the lower control arm. We'll release that from the knuckle. And just put it right off to the side. Now we can use a punch and a hammer to free up the axle from the hub. To remove the ABS sensor, we have a 10mm here that we can remove and pry this sensor out. In our case, our tab broke and we can't remove it from here. So we're going to follow the wire up and remove it from the rest of the car. Following the ABS wire up, we have a small clip on the back of the strut here. And pinch the two tabs in and work that one out. We have a grommet type connector on the other side of the strut here. You can just pull that off. And then on our blue connector here, we have two tabs on either side. Push those in to release that. I'm going to use my clip tool. You can use a flathead screwdriver for this though. And for our uppermost connection, we have two tabs top and bottom. Push in on those. And pop that out. We have a small tab on the connector. Press in on that, and remove the sensor. You gotta make sure you check your terminal for any damage or corrosion. That looks all right. On the back side of the knuckle, holding the strut in, we have a pinch bolt. We can go ahead and remove that with a 17 millimeter. We'll remove the 12 millimeter, holding our brake hose to the strut. Get our axle off to the side. Get our ABS wire down to the front. That way it doesn't get caught up on anything. Now while I'm supporting the knuckle from the bottom, I'm going to give the top of the knuckle a few taps. I'm going to apply a small amount of anti-seize just to the bottom of the strut here to make it easier to install. We'll get the knuckle lined up with the strut. We'll get it set up to the top. There's a small tab on the back side. You'll feel it set in, and we can line that up and install the pinch bolt. Now we can get the axle lined up. I've applied some anti-seize to the shank on the axle. Try not to get any anti-seize on the threads themselves. We can pry down on the control arm. We'll get the ball joint lined up. We'll get our castle nut started. The torque spec on this is between 58 and 65 foot-pounds. I can't get a torque wrench in there, so I'm just going to tighten this to the best of my abilities. And get our cotter pin in. And make sure that's fully seated down. We can start on our axle nut. We'll snug that down. We can snug down the pinch bolt. And we can torque that to 49 foot-pounds. When we torque this, we need to do this at ride height. I'm going to apply a little bit of anti-seize to the hub-centric ring. Try not to get it on any of the studs. When installing the rotor, you want to be aware of where your rotor screw goes back in. We'll just snug that down. Doesn't need to be too tight. When you install the caliper, you want to make sure that your brake hose is not twisted. And get our caliper lined up. We can snug those down. We can torque these to 101 foot-pounds. We can get our brake hose back on its bracket. Install the bolt. We can snug that down. To install our ABS sensor, we're going to route it the same way the original one was. We can install our ABS sensor. We'll plug in the connector. Make sure that's fully seated. I'm not going to pull back out. The small tab on the back side of this clip, that faces forward into the tab in the chassis. Continuing down, you can push that clip in, as well as this one. Slide the grommet onto the strut. And then we can feed the ABS wire behind the strut and between the sway bar link. I've applied a little bit of anti-seize on the sensor. You don't want to get it on the sensor element itself, just the top portion. We'll get our bolt started in. We can snug that down. And we can install the outer tie rod into the knuckle. Our new outer tie rod uses a nut that has a nylon lock washer in it instead of a castle nut. We can go ahead and snug that down. And we'll torque this to 44 foot-pounds. I'm using a pry bar to support the hub and keep it still. You want to be careful not to damage the threads of the studs. We'll torque this to 242 foot-pounds. If you thread the first nut all the way on, that'll hold the wheel for you. And now we can snug those down. We'll torque this to 94 foot-pounds in a star pattern using a 22 millimeter.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.